Welcome to Brew Builds. My wife purchased this microwave for 80% off. Only issue? It had been dropped. I took it apart and found that some of the plastic pieces for the upper latch had been broken off. Fortunately, the broken pieces were still sitting in the microwave. Let's get this fixed. Here is the plastic assembly that broke inside the microwave. The larger piece fits in this spot here and catches the latch and holds the door closed. Fortunately, it was a clean break. A second piece bridges this gap and has a tab that holds onto the metal frame of the microwave. This third piece, I think I broke off when I removed one of the switches. I watched a video online where they shoved some plastic zip ties into a hot glue gun and used that to make repairs. Well, my gun didn't melt the zip ties at all. I just ended up with some zip ties covered in hot glue. So I went back to what I know works, JB Weld. However, this will be my first time using this newer type that has a faster set time. I'll also be using some copper wire and finishing nails to help reinforce the joints. A Q-tip works well to mix and apply the epoxy. Just cut off one of the ends. If you have never used JB Weld before, the pin to puncture the tube is on the top side of the cap. Squirt equal amounts out of each tube onto a piece of cardboard or scrap wood. Then screw the caps back on, making sure you don't switch the caps. Then mix with a Q-tip or a thick toothpick, mixing until it blends into an even gray color. Dab a little of the epoxy on the plastic where the piece broke off. Then attach the broken piece. You can usually feel when it gets set properly back in place. Okay, I need to take this glove off and get a closer look. Add more epoxy into the corners. You can attach a piece of copper wire to give more strength to the break. Pre-bend and cut the wire to match the corner of the plastic. Embed the wire or nail into the wet epoxy and hold it in place for a few seconds. Then fill in with more epoxy and wipe away any excess with the other end of the Q-tip. If you don't have copper wire, a brad or finishing nail will work just as well. Since this JB Weld sets in 6 minutes, I'm just mixing up a little bit at a time. I'm trying to avoid getting epoxy on my hands, which is why I'm wearing gloves and using a pair of pliers. But it's more difficult to feel when the broken piece is set in the exact place it needs to be. Back to using my bare hands. I just move and twist the piece slightly until I feel it locks into place. This will need to set up a bit more before attaching the nail. Oops, still not dry enough. While that is setting, I'll attach the other piece before the epoxy gets too hard. This might be a little challenging. I will carefully hold this one in place while adding more epoxy to the joint. Back to the nail. As you can tell by the Q-tip stuck in the epoxy, I need to mix up some more. Before I do, I'll cut and bend another piece of wire to reinforce the last piece I added. This faster setting JB Weld is nice to use for repairs like this. I have used their original stuff quite a few times, but it would take overnight to set and cure. And if I didn't have the piece positioned just right, gravity would move my reinforcement wires completely off my work as it cured. This faster set time is definitely a plus. Not the prettiest thing, but it should be strong enough to hold the door latch in place. And with my reinforcements, it will be much harder to break. I will get this all put back together and see how it works. The door latch and release are working. Time for popcorn.